Sorry if I sound a little sick during this recording, I think I am. Dune 2's reign as the best sequel of the year sure was short-lived. Looks like it's been dethroned by the well-advertised, extremely hyped up Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate. Just kidding, I'm kidding. Nobody gave a damn about this movie, likely including the creators over at DreamWorks, and then it got tossed onto Peacock as a sort of shoddy cash grab, I guess. I mean, they definitely needed the cash, considering the movie probably had a budget of $2.15. You thought the days of direct-to-DVD sequels were over? Well, they've come right back to bite you, and it's not pretty. It's actually very, very ugly. Is Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate an atrocity beyond human comprehension? Well, not really. It's actually just really boring to the point where I don't even feel the need to add a spoiler warning, because once you've seen the first 20 minutes of this hour and 20-minute movie, you could predict the rest of it and be mostly right, so let's just get talking. Megamind was a 2010 animated film distributed by DreamWorks Animation Studios, and it's pretty good. I don't adore it the same way some people do, but I can appreciate that it's a great little flick that's enjoyable when it's on. Plus, it's got Tina Fey, Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill, and Will Ferrell in the leading role. Honestly, an all-star cast, no matter how many of those people have abuse allegations sections on their Wikipedia pages. And despite this movie taking place 2 days after the first one, not a single one of those people returns. This really is a thing, isn't it? From now on, I'll be calling it either the thing, the item, or the entity. The new voice cast is pretty lame. They're not really doing a horrible job generally. They're just not good at playing these characters. Keith Ferguson doesn't have the same theatrics as Will Ferrell at all, and I certainly didn't enjoy listening to him recap the events of the first movie. Like, sure, Megamind 2010 starts with a ton of narration, but at least that stuff is important. It's also funny to look at shots from that movie and realize that it looks and feels 100 times better than this one. Laura Post is so much more boring and generic as Roxanne than Tina Fey. She's probably the person who sounds the least interested in her role, even though Roxanne was originally one of the easiest characters to emotionally invest yourself in. And Maya Aoki Tuttle is probably a child, as in this entity, she plays a child, so I don't want to rag on her too much, but the annoying sidekick voice is shockingly pretty damn annoying. Actually, you know what, let's just talk about the characters now, because one of my biggest issues with this thing is the character arcs of each main player. In the original Megamind movie, the man himself goes through a complete transformation as he comes to understand what truly makes him happy in life and fills the place where a void would be. Meanwhile, his villain, Titan, is corrupted by his power, feeling betrayed by Megamind, who he believed to be his mentor, and chooses to let his worst qualities, which had been there to begin with, become his only ones. In this thing, most of the arcs for the characters end for absolutely no reason, or they happen in 3 seconds. Minion, Megamind's henchman from the first movie, who is renamed Chum in this one, spends a lot of time, especially around the beginning, separating himself from Megamind to work for other people due to the lack of respect his boss shows him. He does this for 3/4 of the item, then changes his mind off-screen and randomly shows up to help before the final battle with no build-up. Roxanne has a storyline going on where she gets bored of her job of being a reporter, which is really annoying because she was super invested in it to the point of endangering herself days ago. And then the writers kind of forget about that for basically the whole runtime, and at the end she becomes the mayor after one simple transition card. I guess that solved her problem. Next, there's Megamind himself, who is just an asshole at the start of the entity for no reason except to kickstart other characters' stories. He's pretty much just a big fucking coward. He spends all this time being scared of his old villain pals that were never mentioned before this, who he says are super duper powerful, getting all scared about what if they find out he's a hero. But then he traps them in a box like it's nothing, but then the box malfunctions because the plot said it had to, and then he goes and hides in a dark alley and cries. Absolute goddamn loser. Kaiko, Megamind's biggest fan, who is also an influencer, has the standard thing going on that you've seen a gazillion times, where she wants to be his sidekick, but he won't let her, but then he does let her. And that's fine, I guess, even if he is endangering a child, but they never really give her a good reason for wanting to be his sidekick. First of all, her online career is unbelievably successful. At one point in the item, she says she has 500,000 followers, and I was like, okay, fine, I can handle that. But then later, she says she has 500,000 viewers. And I know that's just a case of the writers having no idea what they're talking about, but holy shit, that's like the entire population of Wyoming watching her live stream at the same time. This little girl is making bank. But secondly, they have this big dramatic moment where she says that Megamind defeating Titan helped her realize that she didn't have to be a bad kid and could change for the better. But, Entity, excuse me, that happened 2 days ago. 2 days! This girl's whole life story happened in a few weeks. She got internet famous, and then Blue Man changed her entire personality. Kaiko is a really boring character, because she keeps showing up out of nowhere after the thing gives me enough time to forget she was ever there, but never really progresses her relationship with Megamind, and by the end, it doesn't even feel like she's his sidekick. She's just like, there. Does she have parents? Maybe the animators couldn't be bothered to give her parents, or give the streets people. There's a lot of scenes in the item where characters are walking through the streets in broad daylight, and there's nobody around. Most notably when Megamind in the Doom Syndicate laser blast a TV before robbing a bank, and there are people inside the bank, but the only person outside the bank, in the streets, is fucking Kaiko. The visuals in this item are definitely the worst part, and stuff like that really bothers me, but when there are people in the backgrounds, it might actually look worse. The creators can't really do a walk cycle right, and they definitely can't do running. Whenever the characters run, they just look slow and awkward. It gets worse when they attempt to do more complicated movements. In the middle of the thing, there's a dance party, which I always thought was reserved for the last scene, and of course, if you look in the background of any shot, you can see random white guys with 1,000-yard stares just repeatedly doing Fortnite emotes. This is where the budget really becomes noticeable. The backgrounds themselves start to look pretty terrible after a while. There's a scene where the main characters have to collect a bunch of gear at, like, Walmart, and the inside of the store looks straight out of one of those mockbuster movies, like What's Up? It's just kind of 3 random colors thrown on top of each other. Everything feels so uncanny and uncomfortable. Nobody's mouths are moving right, their heads and arms move at a snail's pace, and it just makes everything so bad to look at. It's like a parody of the original. It's gross. This thing's also not funny. This will be a quicker mention because the comedy isn't really something worth discussing. It's generally quite bad, but it's mostly just generic and cliche jokes that you've probably already seen elsewhere. It's just that in comparison to the original, it looks really bad. I just rewatched the original to remind myself of what it's like, and it's funny as hell. They could fit like 10 jokes into 20 seconds and get genuine laughs out of me. That magic has been lost so severely that it's just depressing. Plus, as I was rewatching, I started to realize that most of the almost funny jokes in Doom Syndicate are just swiped from the first one, like the codes being normal sentences. That's so lame. So back to the plot, we're just gonna skip straight to the big finale. By this point, most of the character arcs are already over, so all we have to deal with is the villains. And those villains, I just gotta say, are pretty bad. I just watched the thing, and I could not tell you a single line of dialogue that French mime guy had. They have this shtick going on where they can't really decide who their leader is, and that could be cute, but it kind of just makes them seem so non-threatening. Like, sure, Titan was an incel loser, but at least that guy was kind of scary. Like, the thing with him is that he just didn't give a shit. He was ruthless and could not be reasoned with. These 4 are tripping over each other so much, while Megamind desperately attempts to convince you that they're so scary, oh my god. The fact that they're able to beat him at any point makes him look worse. I kinda like the lava guy though, he was the only part of the entity that made me smile maybe once. So during the climax, these 4 are able to successfully launch a piece of the city into the sky, which they're going to use to destroy the moon? I don't know, it's weird. Minion is able to stop it from reaching, but that instead causes the city to plummet down to the ground. It then continues to do this for like 10 minutes off screen, and when they cut back to it still being in the air, I finally realized there was no point in considering logic during this abomination. While that's going on, Megamind brutalizes the villains. No, like seriously, he fucks them up. He literally electrocutes the weather lady, and it really looks like she dies. And then Kaiko comes in clutch by evaporating the night guy. All that's left of him is his armor. That man is dead. These are his old co-workers too, and he's just murking their asses. These 4 were so weak and awful that I don't even know what their plans were. And that's pretty much a wrap on Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate. Where did Metro Man go? I feel very unenthusiastic talking about this movie. There it is, finally. I called it a movie. I don't think it deserves it, though. It's bad, sure, but it's mostly just basic. The only thing I can laugh at is the shitty visuals, and even those just kind of make me mad. This never needed to be made. Megamind is a solo story that ties itself up by the end. The entire point is that the villain becomes the hero, and once he does that, there's not really anything unique about him anymore, so I don't see why you would continue it, especially 15 years after, with a shit-ass budget and a completely different voice cast. There's nothing of value about Megamind 2. I can't really say I fully wanted to die while watching this, but rather, I was pretty much emotionless. And I guess that's the direct-to-DVD sequel experience. This is the worst of the year, because while Madam Web is truly a horror that even God couldn't understand, I had a fun-ass time. With this movie, I got nothing. So I'll be giving Megamind 2 a 2 out of 10. Stop making movies like this. The fans hate them, and the people who don't care about the first movie aren't gonna watch it. But if that last scene means anything, they're probably gonna make another. They don't care that it won't make any money. They made this one with what was left in their pockets. Megamind 3 coming in 2037. Get hyped, Mega fans. Anyways, see you next week when Invincible finally returns and we get to talk about good superhero content. Like, subscribe, do whatever you please. Bye now.